All right.
I almost went over there and got the patches, though. Did you see if you have like a King Peach, you could take it over there and they have these like custom patches.
We're live, but is it on the...
I have a feeling we're going to sound dark deep. We're going to sound deep. Just a feeling.
We'll test it out.
But let me know.
Deep.
Let us know.
Did you post do you want me to...
I haven't done anything.
Okay.
Hello.
Do we sound deep?
I haven't eaten dinner yet, which means I'll probably be going to get fast food. Dude, I don't believe... I mean, do you think Chris was serious earlier when he said he hadn't eaten like fast food in like 25 years?
100%.
Serious?
100%.
Is he just like that? Yeah, Chris comes in here and he's like, I just did something I haven't done in like 25 years. I went and got a fast food cheeseburger. And I was like, dude.
Talk to the mic. Talk to the mic.
Clearly, he's very concerned about health.
He said he went to Burger King.
Check. Hi, Jenna. Check.
He's
Hi,
like,
Clayton.
He's like, I went to Burger King
check,
and it tasted like sawdust. I'm like, and then he was like, and I also haven't had he called it like a gun soda. Like basically from like the machine, you know, when you go to like Burger King or whatever. And he called it like a fountain gun or something.
Oh, really?
He's like, I haven't had one of these in like 25 years either. And he said, I haven't drank it out of a straw in like 25 years. And I'm like, wait, what?
Well, he's just a healthy guy.
But no, but he said I was like, dude, I drink out of straws all the time.
What, Kevin, what do you give the Maradona documentary out of 10? Because I'm worried, like, when I watch documentaries like that, I know that they're usually good, but, like, we already kind of know who he is. So was it, like, in-depth about who he was? Like, were we learning stuff that maybe we wouldn't have known otherwise? Or was it more just, like, a synopsis of his life and things like that for people who might not know about Diego Maradona? I expect a good answer to that question.
I need to watch that. That already came out, right?
Yeah, it came out yesterday. I think I'm going to watch it when I go home.
It's on HBO, right?
Mm-hmm.
God, I don't have HBO right now.
Oh, yeah? I'm sure you can find it.
I think my brother.
All right, can you guys hear us okay? I just making sure.
Y'all can hear us good? Well, should I turn my mic on?
You should probably turn your mic on here. That might help.
Well, I can hear everything.
Kevin Escobar, how was the vacation?
He said he's ready to blame you for some stuff.
All right. Back into the swing of things. Perfect.
Man.
All right. Are we ready to go, people?
No.
What's wrong with you, fool?
Check. There we go. Got it.
We're never ready.
I'm technological genius. You were born in 1998, Clayton? Jesus.
Damn kids in your music.
I hate this stuff.
I'm trying to think.
Top lad, Clayton. Just kidding.
Top lad.
Top lad. That's my new thing.
I start seeing people that are renting cars that are younger than I am.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, not cars, trucks, because I don't work with cars anymore. I just want to make that clear. There's a difference.
Right. It's important people know that.
The truck rental people are such high-class people.
Yes, you are one of them, so.
Oh, yeah. High class. All right. Shall we begin? You want to start with anything fun? Okay, cool.
No, I mean.
All right, ready?
You make it fun.
What's up, Atlanta? This is the... Let me shut that again. Me. What's up, Atlanta? This is the Miles of South podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer in the palatial 6-seated The Fan Studios. I am Eric Quintana. Josh Bagriansky next to me and Sam Franco in front of me as well. Gentlemen, I've got an announcement. Well, I've got a surprise. Well, not a really surprise because you guys know this now, but the people don't. Josh, you came in late in the history of the Miles of South podcast. Sam and I have been this since the beginning.
Yeah, I only came when it was popular.
With host emeritus.
As you can see, this is why I was
Jason is a Smith.
iffy about joining.
Yeah, ran into Jason at the Georgia Notre Dame game. It's good to see him again.
Yep. Well, the big announcement, the big news is that we're in our 5th year as a podcast.
No way, bro.
Wow.
4 years straight.
No way, bro.
Into the 5th.
Many have come and gone, but we remain.
Wait, did I say that right?
And still not
4
very
years?
good.
This is the beginning of the 5th year.
Yeah, sorry.
We're still here. We're still here.
Gattaca.
Still not that good, but we are here. And
OG podcast.
5 years?
Going into the 5th year.
Man.
We are 5th year seniors at this point.
You guys are.
Starting our 5th year of college here.
The victory lap, baby.
So yeah, it's been fun. One of the original OG podcasts. I believe we were the first. Because then I think Jason used to do the ATL Soccer Chat, which wasn't really specifically a podcast, but it effectively was a podcast.
I feel like that was when 92.9 was like, I think we should probably bring this guy as our analyst, because I remember watching that and being like, golly, does this guy have a lot of useless Atlanta soccer information?
Where can he put it?
And then it turned out he was accidentally prepping for this job his whole life.
He knew the entire time.
Yeah, the ATL Soccer Chat was great.
I'm trying to think. What else? What do I remember? We were first to interview Darren Eales.
That's right.
I think even before some of the radio people got it. We got the scoop on how many season ticket holders. This is way early. This is like we were talking about 16,000.
Yeah, I still have the picture that we took on my laptop, and I look like a caveman because my hair is out to here.
I'm trying to think. I think we were the first. Definitely the first podcast. I'm pretty sure we were the first. I don't know if we were the first radio interview, but definitely the first podcast to interview Darren Eales. We interviewed. Funny story. 2017 when Atlanta United did the super draft.
Yeah.
It was Miles Robinson that they essentially picked first, and then it was Julian Gressel.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I asked Atlanta United media, I think I told this story before on the podcast. When I asked the front office, the media guys with Atlanta United for either one, I was hoping for Miles Robinson because he was chosen higher. And when Julian Gressel, when I was told it was going to be Julian Gressel, I was like, really? Second pick? Who? No one's ever heard of him. He's probably not going to play because at the time, Atlanta United got lucky year one because you don't ever get two picks in guys like Miles Robinson and Julian Gressel out of the super draft. So they got incredibly lucky with how that's all panned out.
Exactly.
But I remember thinking, really, Julian Gressel? Really? You're not going to give me the guy that you guys picked first or eventually got first? And I'm sitting there, I'm like, all right, whatever. So we do the interview. I called him a German American. Which is wrong because he's just straight up German. Oh, man.
Yeah.
I guess he's German American now. Is he German American now?
Not quite, but I know that he has explicitly called out, I think Joe Patrick revealed for saying that. Okay, yeah. He doesn't like that.
He did it to me.
Wow.
We talked a little bit about his college life.
Maybe that was what drove him to be the player he is. When you called him American, he was so insulted.
I said German American.
Said you.
I said German American.
I don't want to cry.
I recognize his German ethnicity while also assuming that he was American, which isn't the case.
Right.
Well, I guess I don't know.
No, he's not. He
green card doesn't make
any sense. I think it's the winter before the next World Cup is when he would be eligible to play for the men's national team.
There you go. I'm trying to think of any other memorable stories.
I mean, we've
got Alexi Lawless on more than a couple of times.
We had
Taylor Tallman's been on. We had,
Roger Bennett.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question because a lot of people that were kind of on board with this well before 2017 said there was a moment where they realized this is going to be really big. Not talking about the podcast, but Atlanta United is going to be really big. Was there a moment where you guys were like, wow, this is
honestly, I think it was when we were at the first game.
So for me, it was at the I forget where it was at the logo reveal.
Oh,
that's why I was like, all right, this is gonna be
because they did it at that weird thing in Midtown. It was it wasn't even a bar. It was just a big party event space, and I forget what it was called. But yeah, it was almost like a warehouse. I don't even know.
It was cool. It was really cool.
The main thing I remember doing is kind of parking it at the back for the reveal because they were going to sell stuff. Remember, and I started sneaking towards the back to where I could get a good spot in line. Kind of like I did for the jersey reveal, where I started creeping to the back so I could. I think I can't verify this, but I may have bought the first Atlanta United jersey you could buy. I was the first person.
Unverifiable.
It is unverifiable.
I'm sure that
unverifiable.
It is unverifiable. But
I will say that's the first time I saw Ludacris.
Yeah,
he was in the crowd.
That's right.
Interviewing him. That's the first time we interviewed Arthur Blank. There's actually a shot. I have a video of it somewhere where Fox 5 is interviewing. I believe I don't know if it's. No, it's Arthur Blank.
Yeah.
And Carlos Bocanegra and I enter into the shot because I'm asking him if I can interview him.
Yeah.
And
he's like, no, get out of here.
Yeah, so we're going to do a scrum type of thing. We both enter the shot. I ask him a question, and we both leave the shot. weirdest moment on TV, I'm sure, for the camera guys, because we both enter and leave at the same time.
Oh wow! Can you get a clip of that up on?
I'm sure I can find it.
On the Twitter or something.
Yeah, I mean,
That's
we've all had some interesting interesting stories, involving the start of Atlanta United. The introductory press conference, April 16th, 2014, I guess is when
that I wasn't there for.
I was there, and I got to ask the last question that he was. So on the YouTube video, if you go see it, I asked Arthur Blank after sucking up to him for a second, being like, "Thank you for bringing us the soccer team."
And everyone calls him Mr. Blank.
That's right. But yeah, just kind of asking him a question there. I remember Alexi Lalas coming in Don Garber and Arthur Blank coming in on the helicopter and stuff. But one of the funnier moments I had was I remember being asked by Atlanta United comms back. This is back when I was working in radio in Athens.
That's communications for those of you that.
Thank you. If you're not in the biz,
I could barely figure. I thought it was communists at first, and I thought they were going to get into the political imagery
It's a common mistake.
There's our buddy Chris Raimondi who works, with communications for Atlanta United.
Comms.
It's not Chris. What? I'm sorry, I butchered his name, and I'm
Chris Raimondi.
Is it Chris Raimondi?
Isn't that his name?
Is it Chris?
I've heard you guys talk about this.
Anyway, I was asked by somebody in Atlanta United comms to interview Andrew Wheeler Amadou for the start of Atlanta United 2. And, I did it for a different podcast I was doing for my radio game Athens at the time. And I remember they're like, basically, I'm just, throwing them a bone because it's if I throw them this bone, they might help us out later with a bigger interview for Atlanta United or whatever. And so I'm sitting there and I'm interviewing this guy, or I'm getting ready to interview this guy. And it just sort of hit me oh, man, I didn't really do any preface. I have no idea what to ask this dude. And so, we're just talking about how he went to Harvard and, how he's I asked him about, playing down with the twos or whatever and down to USL. He did not like that at all. He was very no, I don't see it as that at all. It's just so funny because I remember thinking, oh man, this is not going to go well. And it went fine, but it's hard when you're wanting to do all this stuff with Atlanta United and talk to these guys, and then they're like, all right, we'll give you this, and then trading off I'll scratch your back, you scratch my back kind of thing. But yeah, just remember basically him kind of giving me the death stare through the phone. I could tell that he didn't want to talk to me anymore.
Yeah, playing down makes you think, varsity JV type.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about MLS, he's because
he was playing down.
But he made the big roster a few times. Of course. But it was at that point, yeah, you're playing down. But nobody wants to be told they're playing in quote unquote the minor leagues.
Well, the amazing thing is, we've made it this far, and we still don't do any prep, just like you didn't for that interview. So it's good.
I don't know what you're talking about. All right.
So we're here 5 years later, and yeah.
I think the only reason we're still here is because nobody has just told us, "Can y'all just stop?" You know what I mean?
Not enough people, at least.
Well, it's just we just keep showing up and we keep publishing content.
All right.
Let's talk about soccer.
Let's talk about soccer.
More currently, yeah.
We'll focus on the positive, at least to start, and that would be coming from the mouth of Michael Parkhurst, who says he would be surprised if Joseph doesn't play. He says that, but then he also says, but maybe they'll wait because we were already qualified. Maybe they'll wait the extra 2 weeks and give him time.
Because you've got Sunday against New England, and basically then you've got a 2-week break until playoffs.
So forget whether he plays Sunday or not. The good thing is he's running around, he's mobile. It doesn't seem as though by the time this first playoff match starts, he's not going to be part of the starting 11. That is a positive. Whether it's in a third place Atlanta or a second place Atlanta, doesn't matter. He's going to be there. Makes a world of difference because this team is not the same when he's on the lineup. Same sort of conversation we have with Barco. So positive is that it looks like or Doug Robertson's saying that he's in training. Michael Parker's talking about how he looks fine. He's running around. I really can't get over that because the way the knee bent, I'm sitting there thinking the worst. I'm sitting there thinking that we're not going to see him until mid next year.
Yeah,
we all thought.
But it didn't buckle though. That's the big. I mean, he is incredibly lucky. But watching that, I held out hope that he didn't tear anything. That being said, it is crazy that he's able to train this soon out because of the swelling and pain.
That's what I don't know. How'd they get the swelling down so fast? Because that kind of swelling can last weeks.
I mean, because he's a
don't-
god.
Even if you don't tear anything, even if you don't really strain anything, you can still have things linger for months.
Just to have
the knee is so weird.
Just have that quote from Parkhurst that I'd be surprised if he doesn't play this Sunday. That's crazy. I mean, I think the thought was, okay, there's no ligament damage. When you heard there was no ligament damage, let's get him ready for the postseason. I'd never thought in a million years that you'd be talking about him with confidence in the last regular season game.
I didn't even think we'd be talking
Incredible
about
time.
it with confidence in the first playoff game. Because people would have been like, "Oh man, that's,
I saw that. I'm like, all right, well.
But you
This
guys,
has been a fun
good season. We got the U.S. Open Cup. We're good to go.
yeah, I mean, and that's something that I know we're going to talk about a
US
lot
Cup?
in terms of how successful was this season. But I think we're going to have to wait to see what happens in the playoffs first. But you talk about Joseph. Whether he's 80%, 90%, we saw against Montreal over the weekend why you have to have him in the lineup, because you look at the chance that Brandon Vasquez and PT Martinez missed in that match. Vasquez's was.
But
both those chances come when those guys were playing the number 9 position. Right. PT had moved up into that position when he has the chip over the top, and then Vasquez, of course, was playing striker when he missed that shot from like 3 yards out.
Oh my God!
You saw the value of you've got to get this guy back in your lineup, because even a team like you let a team like Montreal hang around and it's a point instead of 3. I mean that's the difference of having a goal scorer like Joseph Martinez in your lineup.
Vasquez trying to explain that too. Did
he try to explain it?
I mean,
I don't know how you can. It's just
that's about as bad a miss.
Well, and we were saying this earlier, on the radio show, I said this. I feel bad for Vasquez in a sense. I don't feel bad because here's the thing: he's not getting many opportunities, so maybe that's why I feel bad for him. But the opportunities that he's gotten since Joseph has been out, which hasn't been very long, but still, he's gotten a few games here. He's been bad. It's not like it's like, well, you're comparing him to Joseph. It's like, well, he hasn't been bad compared to Joseph. He's been bad compared to your average run-of-the-mill striker in the league.
Well, if you miss that, I mean, that's really shocking.
And it stinks because he's not getting a lot of opportunities, but he's not taking advantage of the opportunities that he's getting.
And I will say this: I think if for some reason you don't have Joseph in the postseason, you do have Barco. I think you saw those 30 minutes where you had Barco and PT as your front 2. Or as your most attacking players in the front 3, whatever you want to call it, this formation. Those two worked together better, and I thought you looked more dangerous with Barco and PT as your front 2 man. So even though you wouldn't be playing with an out-and-out 9, I think if Joseph, has a setback with a knee injury or something like that, I think you saw from those last 30 minutes against Montreal, you'd probably rather go PT and Barco than Vasquez and PT at this point. Because if you're going to be a 9 that sits on the last defender, and it's great that Vasquez has great movement and he works hard, you got to score.
Look,
and he's not giving you the end product.
He might be a bit better than what Kenwyne Jones was, but it's effectively the same
on effort alone.
I'm just sitting there. I'm like, what's the point? I mean, he doesn't fit what you're trying to do, and it's not even close.
But even so, fit or not, I mean, you got to score from inside the 6-yard box.
No, yeah, sure, I get you.
I actually think I think he's doing all he can. I just think he's not. To be quite honest, I don't think he's quite an MLS quality player.
No,
and that's not his fault. He's a hard worker, and like you said, he doesn't fit great into the system he's been with. But I think you're going to have to go Barco.
I'm trying to think up top because
this is one thing we've talked about.
I'm trying to think. Tito started, right?
Not editing that out.
Tito started, and I'm sitting there thinking, why not throw him up top and then just throw Gressel or Near him on that left side, and that way you have at least someone that is some kind of an experienced finisher, as opposed to Vasquez, who, look, if you're not going to use him for his height, then what are you really doing?
Yeah, and I think, but the one thing I do see,
and I'm not saying they should have used him from his height. I'm saying that replace him altogether in this
with somebody. And I mean, to be fair, I would have. That's something I don't have an issue with Vasquez starting against Montreal. Barco wasn't fully fit, but I think clearly we saw that it's hard to really see him playing a part in the future just because he can't score. He's poor in the box. He doesn't give you the end product that you need. But I will say that you talk about starting Tito up top, and I think one thing that we learned over these last couple weeks with the way Frank de Boer has kind of used this lineup. Even without a Joseph Martinez, he hasn't set up significantly differently in any of the matches. I do think excuse me, against Montreal, there was more of an emphasis on being organized and not being as gung-ho going forward. But he hasn't changed a lot. So I think you have to accept that, yeah, Tito sounds great. You put him up there, you've got speed, you can counterattack, or you can run at the back line. Frank DeBoer doesn't want to do that. And I think we've shown that he's not going to make the kind of adjustment that Tata Martino did. And to be fair to Tata, it was 2 years before he made it.
Sure.
But he's not going to have that, okay, we need to sit back, absorb pressure, and hit direct on the counter. I think we've seen DeBoer is going to stick with his system for better or for worse and try to implement Atlanta United's style of play. And if he had any bend on that, I think we would have definitely seen Tito start, certainly not a left wing back like he did against New York City. I think we would have seen him given a chance to be that man in the front two that can get behind the defense and counter. That hasn't happened. So I think it's pretty clear to me with the way DeBoer has used Tito and gone about some other things. This is the identity you're going to have. What he's tried to do, playing that 3-4-3, attacking, possession-based, really aggressive. I don't think there's going to be any change from that at all.
I just think that having Tito up top, not necessarily for his speed, because I think that gets kind of eliminated when you have him in that kind of position, unless you're just deep in your own half. But having someone that can he can turn and shoot much better than Vasquez.
As we saw with that,
he can put him. Yeah, he can put himself in a better position than what Vasquez gives you. And even though he doesn't have the height, maybe he doesn't play as well with his back to goal. It gives you something maybe a little more similar to what you have with Joseph than what you have with Vasquez.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's similar in the sense that Joseph is great. I think
but you get what I mean, though.
You're right.
Vasquez doesn't give you the same thing Joseph does, and Tito is more. Not saying like Joseph, but more like Joseph in the style of play, in his movements, in the way he can kind of receive and get rid of the ball. Whereas Vasquez just again. I'm sorry, Vasquez, but unless we're using for your height, there's really no reason for you to be on the field.
And I think that, I would say Joseph and Tito are similar in the sense of that, like you said, Eric, they're aggressive attacking players, but a way that they're not similar is Joseph is a great player in terms of holding possession. He's really technical. He can slow the play down. Tito is one speed all the time. So again, like I said, I think this confirms Frank DeBoer, aside from the fitness and all those things, but the fact that he got his chance to start and it was at a wingback position, not in that front two, shows that Frank DeBoer is not really interested in starting a guy that only plays at one speed, fast. Off the bench, yes. But Frank DeBoer, I don't think interested in playing, and we can argue for or against this, but I think he's shown us he's not interested in Tito starting as one of those front two because he really wants Atlanta, to get possession of the ball and play a kind of a mix of tempos as opposed to just one speed, 100 miles an hour at all times, which is what Tito gives you.
And it's been frustrating, to see guys and I was talking about this with Vasquez a minute ago, but to see guys get opportunities and, not necessarily take advantage of them. And Eric was saying this earlier. It's like, well, I'm just not seeing consistency from Tito. And I'm like, it's unfortunate because you can't see consistency from someone if they're not getting consistent minutes.
Yeah. And that goes into, and I mean, Eric's not totally wrong. I mean, it's not like Tito has forced.
Well, he hasn't been consistent, right?
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't played particularly well, but certainly he doesn't seem to fit the style. And I think it kind of leads us to a more general question. There's a lot of questions about this team going into the playoffs, and I think the main one is they just don't have an established identity yet. And I know that Tata Martino changed it last year going to the playoffs, but that was still an iteration of what they had been doing. It was a more defensive version of that 3-5-2 they were playing all year. Frank DeBoer has tried to play this 3-4-3 or 4-3-3 all season long, and it's just not there consistently over 90 minutes in terms of it looks open when you get countered. And you had, I think, the sixth best goal XG difference in the league over the last couple months, which is good, but not win MLS Cup good. So it just you don't feel the same confidence in the team because I don't think you really know what you're going to get from them for 90 minutes. And you see that in a match like Columbus at home, where you can be on top and easily, but you're open on the other end and you concede. And you see it in a match like Montreal, where again, you're against an inferior opponent. You control the game for a long period of time, but you're just not able to implement your identity, your style of play yet. I don't see that from Atlanta yet. I see it from New York City. I see it from LAFC. Obviously, those are your two favorites to win MLS Cup at this point.
Well, that's why isn't it safer to stay in the 3-5-2 or kind of that rendition?
Yeah, but I think it's just not going to happen. I mean,
I don't really think it matters because it's not. it's like everyone's playing bad. Everyone's
no, right.
What I.
But that's why you need a formation that kind of masks that more, and I think the 3-5-2 does compared to
the
like
3-5-2, particularly of 2018,
been playing in basically the entire year.
But it's different. It's very different than.
It changes a lot. He's right. There's like almost an amoeba like aspect.
You could call it a 3-4-3. I mean, you really could call it a 3-4-3. There's so much, the highest. And I had an article on Dirty South Soccer about this when he kind of settled on this a couple months ago.
Pat yourself on
where, yeah, thank you, and it still holds up. Basically, the highest center mid.
He just doubled down on his own.
I know. Good grief.
good for you, John.
Would you like to compliment yourself anymore?
Yeah, I'll think of something in a little bit.
Okay.
But if you look at the formation last year, it was like more of a simple 3-5-2 or 5-3-2, where your midfield three all came back and defended it, and your highest center mid played underneath the two forwards. This year, Frank de Boer, whether it's Hindman or Ezequiel Barco in the highest of the three center mids, that player drifts to the left and becomes a left winger. PT drifts to the right winger, and it becomes a 3-4-3. And if you look at kind of the average positions from the game, that's really what he's trying to go for. It's kind of a 3-4-3 formation. I think we still call it a 3-5-2, right? But it's different. It's more fluid. It's more aggressive. It's more attacking. It's not meant to sit back and absorb pressure and hit the front two. It's meant more so for everyone to get forward and pin the other team back in their half. And that's so different than last year. And while you could easily say, okay, Barco, Hyman, whoever, that highest center midfield player, okay, you're going to sit back. We're just going to play a triangle through the middle. You're not going to go crazy going forward on the attack. Frank de Boer hasn't done that, and I think he would have done that already if you're going to see that in the postseason.
I think my bigger issue is that there was a hybrid of this formation, of this style of play where we saw Barco, Pity, Joseph all playing at their best. It was right before
yes,
right before Barco went on.
I mean, who can forget that NYCFC game? Were you going back to the win streak in July, August,
yeah, right.
when we blew out NYCFC at home? And that was a great run.
Because I'm sitting there thinking, I'm like, okay, well, there was something different about this. And what was different was that there was sure, the idea was maybe to possess first, but the minute you see an opportunity, spring forward and go. There was a lot less, the first 3-4 months of the season, it felt like for a lot of fans, it was obvious for anyone that was watching, they were holding back. They were looking for the perfect pass or the perfect cross or the perfect opening.
And just not playing that well in general.
It seemed as though right before Barco went international duty, it seemed they were playing much more freely. They were able to make their own choices. They were able to be a little more dangerous. They were able to play balls that maybe weren't going to come off, but there was a chance that maybe it could. And before that, it seemed as though Frank de Boer was just like, no, we're not going to do that. We're gonna stick to the plan here. We're going to make this work. We're going to make sure we have this done. We have this down pat first. And then we can move forward. I'm hoping that we can get back at Atlanta United, to playing that way right before Barco went on international duty, because that's the
knee injury as well.
Yeah,
so it's a knee injury that's had him out this most recent period.
But that's an Atlanta United that can actually win MLS Cup.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I don't think it's anything de Boer's doing though. I think it's just the influence of it, having a player like Barco who can go get the ball from the back line like Almiron last year, and then make a 30-40 yard run forward into attack. So, Emerson Hyman is not that player.
Right.
So I would I don't really disagree with you, but I think the devil's advocate would say it's nothing tactical. It's just that what Barco brings in a box-to-box aspect helps you transition from defense to attack a little more quicker than a player like Emerson Hyman. But I'm not disagreeing with you, but I think.
Well, I just look at the players. That Emerson Hyman isn't that player. But you can still expect them to try to do something like that. But they don't even if it's not Barco, it's not anybody.
And I think
that's where I'm like, okay, well, someone else is gonna have this, whether it's Tito, whether it's Emerson, whether it's Nagby. I'm not saying that they have the same kind of skill set as Barco, but someone's got to step up to at least relieve the pressure.
I think it's instinctual more than anything. I think Barco, when he's in there, is such a great mental player. Like he knows exactly what he needs to do. He's such a thoughtful player that I don't know if anybody. It might just be that nobody else on the team can replicate.
I'm not asking for replication. I'm asking for
at least somewhat passable play when he's not in the lineup, but nobody's doing it.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I think Emerson Hyman's been very good. It just he doesn't give you the same. He doesn't give you the same thing.
I agree. I'm not
passing off at what Barco is.
Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with you, but sometimes you just got to hit the gas and go.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't see enough of unless Barco is in there.
But I think
I'm not saying it needs to be every single time.
I'm
not saying it needs to be 2017.
Right. Yeah.
But mix it up every now and then.
I don't know, though. I don't know that it's not there. I just don't think they can do it. I don't think you have the personnel to do it without a Barco on the pitch. I mean, PT is not, guys like that don't grow on trees, I mean, like players like Miguel Almiron with those types of attributes. You can't just say to Emerson Hyman, all right, man, you're gonna have to make a 30-yard run out of the back. He can't do it.
Well, Josh, you think you know more about Miguel Almiron than Steve Bruce? Okay.
Actually, I'm going to get into that later. Hopefully I don't strangle someone out of anger about Steve Bruce, Miguel Almiron, but I think Barco is just that valuable to the team. I
100% agree with you. And he's I think I said on the radio show, him playing well is going to mean Atlanta United does well in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Him playing poorly in the playoffs means Atlanta United is going to do.
And you hit the nail on the head, Eric. It's no coincidence that Atlanta United's form dropped off immediately when he goes on international duty. Immediately when he goes when he has the knee injury. There's no coincidence whatsoever. And he's missed a lot of games this year. So again, no coincidence that it's been up and down play going forward for Atlanta United.
I'm still look. Before this year, I wasn't all that surprised because I still thought Andrew Carlton had a lot of growing up to do.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm surprised that because it worked so well with Barco doing the things he did, Andrew Carlton is a player that I'm not saying he's as fast or as gifted as Barco, but they're pretty similar.
Well, Barco's a better version. I mean, yeah.
Sure, yeah.
But that's actually
in terms of what they give you,
yeah.
I'm surprised.
Style of play.
Yeah, I'm surprised at that Andrew Carlton hasn't even got a sniff.
Yeah, that's true.
To be a like replacement. But then again, that's why you brought in Emerson Hyman,
yeah.
and maybe Emerson Hyman fits more what Frank DeBoer wants to do in the long term.
Especially from possession. I think that's the big thing is he's a guy that can complete passes really anywhere on the pitch. So he helps you maintain possession. He's not the dynamic, athletic type of player that a Barco is, but he's done a good job. And I think I've heard some people, and I think this is crazy, but a couple people suggest that because I think there are some starting positions up for grabs with the postseason. Let's say for the postseason, around the corner. Hyman's been good, but you have to play Barco there. I mean, he just means so much to the overall dynamic of the team.
If Nagy ends up leaving after this year, I think Emerson Hyman's the natural.
Then we have an interesting. Yeah. So, but I think the other two spots that are real fascinating to me are, first of all, holding mid. You've got either Jeff Lorenz or Eric Rometti. Are gonna, because we know Nagbe is gonna play that kind of 6/8 role with that more box to box. Who's the other more defensive center mid gonna be? And then I thought Michael Parkhurst not only played well over the weekend, but you saw a similar transformation on the defensive side with Parkhurst in the game that you saw on the attacking side when Barco came in. Just in terms of the impact he has on all the players around them. I thought until the goal occurred, that was, to me, as good a defensive performance as I had seen from Atlanta United over the first 65, 70 minutes in a quite a long time. And so I wonder if maybe he has to be inserted into that back three to kind of solidify things defensively, an area where you haven't been great over the last 5-6 matches.
And replacing who?
So I think for him,
because here's the question. Because I'm sitting here, I'm like, well, it's clear to me who you'd replace.
I think Escobar.
I was thinking LGP.
You just can't, no.
Because my gosh, to me he's been the worst defender.
Well, let's hear it. Let's hear it because that's not something you hear much. But he has been in great form.
As of late, he's been the worst defender on Atlanta United's roster. He's stabbing way too much. He's diving way too much. He's making decisions that are absolutely costing his team definitely points. So
you would go.
It's kind of like he's. It's almost like he's trying to do too much. He's trying to be the guy that turns the game or something like that. He's trying to be the hero back there, and we don't. It doesn't necessarily need one person to be a hero. We need the collective unit to just do the job. It's not that we need anyone to stand out. Miles Robinson is already going to do that naturally. But when he dives in just imagine the Montreal goal had he just stayed in front of
Okonkwo.
Yeah.
Well, he's not even in a dangerous position. And Pierre,
it's because he stabs and falls and trips over himself and needs a cane to get up at this point. That he finds his way into the box and is able to get the cross back in right atop the 6.
So you think playoffs start?
I'm just kidding.
Let's say Sunday against New England is playoff game. Would
I'm
you
just
go
saying,
Parkhurst over Perez? Or are you saying if Parkhurst starts, it's over Perez?
If you have to start Parkhurst, if you believe that Parkhurst is playing really well,
his influence
is important. I like too much what Escobar gives you. I'll put it this way: Escobar, I feel like, is more sound defensively right now than LGP is.
Yeah, that's
right
fair.
now.
Well,
right now,
I think LGP's because he takes risks when he defends.
Sure.
So if he's
but
not
as of late,
that's fair.
He's been sucking at taking those risks. Which, sure, maybe you're going to go through those moments,
right?
And in those moments, maybe take a break.
And to your point, Eric, just so people think we're not just saying this, you had the first goal, obviously, against Montreal Okonkwo, where he dives in on the touch line, allows him to come into the box unimpeded, squares across for the goal. But also, the only real chance Montreal had before that was where there was a cross into the box, and Pires fell over. I can't remember who it was. And fortunately, we were able to recover, and I think either blocked the shot or Guzan saved it. But the other big chance in the game, aside from the goal, was also a mistake by Pires.
Yeah.
So to your point, I mean, he's generally not in great form right now.
Right now, as it stands, he's a liability to his team defense.
So I think for me, though, I'm
not necessarily convinced that I would still make that move. I'm just saying that if you're going to make a sub, if you're going to make a switch in the starting 11 defensively, and you're going to put in Michael Parkhurst because of the influence, because of how well he played against Montreal, LGP would be my pick.
Mm-hmm.
And I would hate that for LGP, but I mean, it's just business.
Interesting.
It's really just business.
Wow. That is really is LGP the new Tito and Eric's?
No.
It's going to be 2
Don't
years
start
of
that.
slander.
Don't start that.
Okay, so you're not wrong. You're not wrong about him, but I just think a player of that influence, I can't sit him. But I do think I would start.
That's a completely different discussion.
I think Parkhurst comes in over. To me, I would go Parkhurst over Escobar because of the general way the back line looked, much more cohesive with him. I thought you were building out at the back a little bit better. You can't, and I would go Miles Robinson over Escobar. I think, and this is an interesting one, you could make an argument for Franco Escobar on the right instead of Julian Gressel when you think back last year where he was changing games from that position in the postseason. But again, that would probably mean Frank DeBoer is going to play a little more withdrawn, and I just don't see that happening. So we've got the center backs. The other big one is Remedi and Laurentowicz. I think, and that one on form is clearly Laurentowicz. Not that he's been on great form, but Remedi has been really, really bad. But at the same time, his ceiling is so much higher. I mean, he's so much more athletic. He can cover so much more ground. If you need a little more influence going forward, he can give you that. For me, I like Laurentowicz because, again, he gives you that just solidity, kind of know what you're going to get from him. And then you can take him out for Remedi later in the match if he can't go 90. But I think that's another interesting one that's up in the air, hasn't been decided yet, might have a better idea based on performances this weekend against New England.
Yeah, we'll see.
Well, who do you think? Don't just say we'll see.
Well, I agree with you. There's nothing to disagree with. Who's going to disagree with you right now?
Who could ever?
Who's going to disagree with you?
Just say I agree with you. You're the smartest. Next topic. That's all you had to do. All you had to do was say how smart I was.
Who's going to disagree with you on that? Anyone that's watching this match knows that Remedi's been crap.
Yeah, but I do think there's an argument, and I've heard some people make some absurd arguments about defending Remedi, but I think
who? You're just gonna sit there and say some people? Who's it?
Well, I only like to call out you guys.
Thanks.
But I still think you can. I have heard the argument for Remedi that just when he's at his best, and again, I think the way he played that 6 role in the postseason last year, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Was extremely influential. So, I mean, if you get that version of him, then you do want him over Laurentowicz. But how do you? I mean, it's been real bad for a long time. I don't think Yeah, he's. I think he's the main guy that's dropped off in terms of going from Martin Tata to DeBoer. Other than Tito, I think Remedi has probably had the steepest drop off, and there's a lot of different reasons for that. And certainly, he could easily improve his performances, but I think he's been pretty poor.
It does make you wonder what kind of changes Frank DeBoer might make in the offseason. I mean, we're cart way ahead of the horse. But
but a lot of interesting discussion.
This is all going to be discussed when it's all said and done for Atlanta United in 2019, for sure.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And it's gonna. I mean, there as far as the starting 11 goes, we didn't have these questions last year. There were some questions of, do you want to play attack, go crazy high pressing? Until about maybe a month or so left in the season, are you going to play 4? But you pretty much knew who your best 11 were. You knew Barco and Tito were coming off the bench. You kind of, and this year there's a lot more moving parts.
Do you still feel like they can make a big run in the playoffs?
Absolutely.
You do.
I mean, if you can score goals, yeah, you can do. And I think the 2 seed, it's hard to see this team going to New York after what we just saw, and considering that Frank de Boer doesn't seem willing to do what Tata Martino did in the playoffs last year in New York, was just, basically just turn it into a crap show. Frank de Boer's not going to do that. So I think if you get to New York, you're in trouble. But if you can score goals, if you have Joseph Martinez, if you have Ezequiel Barco, if you have Pizzi Martinez, you can beat anyone on any given day.
That's the thing too about the MLS playoffs now, with it being that one and done scenario, like you're saying, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like any of these games, it just throws out like so much from what you were used to before, because there is no room for error. There's but at the same time, if the other team does make that error, you capitalize. You end up moving on in a scenario you might not have been favored.
Exactly. So I'm not saying it's going to happen, because again, you would err on the side of the teams with the established identity are going to go deep into the postseason. But there's really, it's MLS, right? There's parity. There's only really 2 teams to me, LAFC and of course NYCFC, who have established that. And again, like I said, if Joseph Martinez can score a hat trick on any given evening, are you going to concede 4 on the other end every time you go to New York?
We'll see.
What if Joseph Martinez is scoring a hat trick? Then you're probably opening yourself up on the counter a lot, so the other team might score.
What would you guys put? What would you put the teams?
I'm less confident about how these playoffs are going to go.
So do you think like first round exit, or
I would be surprised if it was longer, if they got out of.
Does it matter to you if they get the 2 or 3 seed? At all?
I would rather have the 2 seed.
Right. Then I think you have a much better chance to make a deeper run, because the difference in, assuming that you were to match up with Philadelphia at some point, it's a huge difference.
If they get the 2 seed, they go up against.
Well, if it ended today, it's New England.
Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
Yeah.
If they get a 3 seed, then it would be against Toronto.
Yeah.
As of right now.
Yeah, it's not settled yet. But as far as making a deep run, if we're going to call that, I assume, conference finals.
Look, here's the thing. And New England, I would have some confidence over. Toronto, New York, DC United, whoever we end up playing.
You're afraid of all those teams.
I'm scared poopless of all those teams.
Okay. Even Toronto?
All of them.
Toronto may have made a lot of. We'll get into the nitty gritty, but Toronto have made a lot of new signings. They're kind of a big sink or swim team in the postseason.
I'll say this:
I just don't have confidence with this Atlanta United team. I had some confidence, but not as much against these 3 teams.
And Eric,
I have less confidence.
Look at I just think Atlanta United's consistency throughout the season has. And I would say Joseph Martinez alone actually is the reason you're above those teams in the table.
Sure.
Because you just have someone that can score goals. So you're winning these. You have a consistency that maybe was not signified in your overall play in terms of being able to get results. Because you look at those sides that you just mentioned, Eric, there's clearly not a ton of separation between them and Atlanta United when you look at the head-to-head matchup.
Well, Eric, you said you feel worse, like even with
it's been a tough year for Eric.
But I'll say this, even with Joseph and Barco, like Joseph coming back, being in training, Barco being back in the lineup.
And so the reason I feel less confident, because even though that looks to be the case, it's not like they've been all paired together. The perfect starting 11 for Atlanta United has been together for a very long time.
Plus, how long is it going to be?
In a perfect scenario, the perfect thing for Atlanta United to happen in that first round game is Barco, Joseph, Pity are all clicking all cylinders, and we have not seen that this year yet.
Well, and Joseph has to get match fit too. Like that's the thing. How long will it take him? How long will it take him to get back to being
match sharp?
Match sharp. That's what I'm talking about there. Like
they kind of go hand in hand.
That's what I'm saying. It's not just when you say match fit. It's not just physical. It's also mental. Yeah, so that's that sharpness that you're talking about there. But yeah, it's like will his reaction time? Will his there's not really a word for it. His spring. That's kind of like
your touch is not
right.
Your game is not back until you get reacclimated to the speed
so the
of the
reason I'm less confident is because when's the last time we saw the three of them play together?
Oh man,
it's been a while.
Basically that period you just mentioned
It's
when you
been a
go
while.
back to that win over New York.
And so now in a perfect world, we're going to drop them into a one-game situation
in Atlanta.
Into a one-game situation and hope that everything goes swimmingly. And it might. I'm not saying it won't, but we haven't seen that since July.
It's been a while, and you're asking basically Barco and Martinez to hit the ground
as if
running.
Nothing has changed. And
but
we can't assume
it's a high ceiling.
Happen.
We know those guys are good at soccer, so there's a high ceiling. But you're saying basically you think first or second round they're out. Like maybe you get past that first game, but then you're going to run into one of those 3-4 teams you mentioned.
Yeah,
it's not a bad take.
I'm
withholding judgment.
I'm happy with how the season has gone. Well, I'm happy with the trophies that has come about in 2019. I think we should all manage expectations a little bit better than we did maybe in 2017, 2018 for this year.
This is going to be a really interesting discussion over the next few weeks, especially based on what happens in the postseason. Simply put, was this a successful season or not? Some people are saying it already is.
I think it already is.
So if you crash out in the first round to New England, you think still a successful season?
It depends on who you play. It definitely depends on who you play.
How does it happen? Like, do you lose 4-0? Then yeah, that's going to be
okay. Let's say you lose in penalties.
I would look at it much more in the same vein as Columbus.
But again, there's a lot, right?
Right.
So clearly, there's a lot of fluidity though
Sure.
in terms of the postseason and how it goes and how far you make it and how you end up winning or losing is going to really determine whether the season was successful.
Well, like if you crash out to New England, like in the first round at home, yeah, that's bad. Say you somehow end up matching up with Red Bulls in the first round, which could still happen.
Yeah.
I mean, if you end up matching up with Red Bulls in the first round and losing, then I don't think you feel as bad. Like if you lose to New England.
I think mentally you're more prepared. Oh, look, so year one against Columbus, we thought we're not necessarily king of the world, but we thought, look at this fast-paced offense, look at how many goals are scored.
That loss took me by surprise. I don't know about you guys, but I remember leaving the stadium that day being like, did they just lose?
I think
it hurt because the chance of the thought of winning that game was real.
Mm-hmm.
In 2008, well, last year, being what Atlanta United was.
Don't give me that Red Bull series, man. I was like,
you knew you had, there was this expectation, like, yeah, we're gonna go in there and we're gonna dominate. This year, you don't have that same kind of expectation. You don't have that same kind of mindset, that same kind of outlook on this team. You're more in limbo than you are anywhere else about this team and about what they can do moving forward. So if they can get past the first one, I think, all right, well, anything past this, house money, let's go for it.
Well, it also sounds crazy to say this, but like you look at New England, for example, if you match up with them, say in the first round of the playoffs, New England is one of the original teams of MLS. But Atlanta has the experience edge. You know what I mean? Like New England isn't a team that's been, they haven't been good. They weren't good at all last year or the year before. So it's like, it's weird that Atlanta, having only existed, this is their third season, have that kind of experience edge over some of these teams, which you wouldn't think would be the case.
And while New England's been better, they've kind of tailed off towards the end of the season a little bit.
Absolutely.
They've
you got to watch out for Gustavo Bo, though. Gold Panther, man.
They have some that score goals, so it's not going to be easy.
And they got him in what, like July?
Yeah, he's been one of the signings of the season.
Just to be clear, we assume it's going to be New England. We have no idea yet.
Well, I'm just saying. Well, even so, you still got to play them on Sunday. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing that they haven't had. What we've been talking about, like. They went, I believe the Revolution had Jermaine Jones for a little bit. And it's like, oh, well, they had a high-profile player, but now they have a guy that can score goals, which is something they haven't had in a while. And if you don't, if you're not up to date or whatever on Gustavo Bo, go look him up. He's been really good for them.
And they have some really good attacking players. And the thing is, even if we don't play them in the playoffs, we do play them this weekend. So fortunately, this information is relevant. But they have some really good attacking players. I mean, Carlos Gila, in terms of want to talk about other really good signings this year. We kind of touched on this when Brad Friedel, the dinosaur, was still the manager there, that they had a lot of attacking talent. And he kept kind of chopping and changing. It was really weird.
He couldn't harness the power that he had into focused energy.
Bruce Arena looks like a genius, but it's not a total surprise that they're at least a better attacking side than they were under Brad.
I feel like Bruce Arena gets crapped on a lot. Right? I mean, rightfully so in some instances. But, I mean, the guy at least, has been a successful coach. And, I mean, like you said, he's doing a better job than Brad Friedel was doing. Not that that's like a big compliment because Brad Friedel was doing a horrible job.
Mhm.
But still, I mean, he's got them, into the playoffs now, or at least it looks like it.
So here's the
Yeah, they're in. They're in.
Let's assume. How do you guys feel about playing the same team twice?
I hate that. Excuse me. I hate that adage, by the way. When people say,
Yeah, I'm with you, Sam.
"Oh, it's hard to beat a team twice in the same season," or whatever. You know what I mean?
It's hard.
It doesn't work in soccer like that. But like, playing a team back-to-back weeks, the same team. No, it's not. It's like if you beat them once, then you know how to do it.
It is different.
It's different for sure. Well, the other team can adjust in the second meeting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like they can see what you did in the first meeting, maybe make some adjustments. But ultimately, if you're a good team, other teams can adjust to what you're doing, and you should still be able to execute regardless of their adjustments. So I think that, say Atlanta goes out, wins, 2-0 or something on Sunday, that should be the expectation going into the quote-unquote rematch. If you beat them and you have their number, they can adjust or whatever, but you shouldn't be caught off guard by those adjustments.
Oh, even more so if they're playing at home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I mean, we don't want to touch on it too much because, again, it might not be New England,
Right.
but it is a very interesting prospect of playing them back-to-back weeks.
I personally don't like that. I don't like playing the same team twice.
Well, and I think if it helps either team, it helps New England a little bit because they're the team they're going to obviously have to react to what Atlanta United do. They're not as good. They don't have as much talent. So to have such fresh and recent kind of film on them in terms of how they're going to react to you and where your good and bad matchups are on the pitches, is it more an advantage, I think, for New England?
Let me rephrase that. I hate playing because you obviously play the same team twice in a two-legged series type of situation.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not back-to-back, but whatever. The fact that it's a regular season match right into a single elimination match in a playoff situation, that's what I don't like about it as much. I don't like it in big series either. So if like for the NBA, for example, I hate the perfect example is the Hawks. What happens to them, or at least what happened to them in the past. Sorry, this is divergent.
Yeah, I know you're going off here. That's usually my.
But when you see a team like the Hawks in the playoffs in the Al Horford years, whenever they played the same team twice, they always got shellacked in the second game because they knew everything you were going to do. Anyways, that's what I'm worried. That's more of what I'm worried about with Atlanta United against a team.
It has a very unique element.
It's going to be, if it happens, it's going to be back to back. So it's going to give Bruce Arena a chance to formulate some kind of if they were to lose, formulate a better angle to kind of attack Atlanta United.
And I just think from a confidence, just to be able to play in Mercedes-Benz and just get used to the environment. I just think mentally it has to help. But I don't think it's a big difference. I'm with Sam. But it definitely makes it a very unique. Again, if you're playing New England, it's a pretty unique tie that you're gonna play them at home, then play them at home again in single playoffs.
Do you have anything else to add about New England?
No.
I have a trivia question for you.
Uh-oh. Is this the one from earlier?
Who are the two teams who have never made, including this year, who are the two teams that have never made the playoffs?
Who have never made the playoffs?
Yeah, because technically, and I'll spoil one.
MLS?
Technically,
in MLS,
the reason
Orlando,
he says it,
Cincinnati, right?
well, the reason he said it like that is because technically Minnesota, right? They haven't.
Yeah, they're in this year. Yeah.
They're in this year though. But we haven't started it.
Well, we all know Orlando and then Cincinnati.
Suck it, Orlando.
You know what's crazy about the
I did see that from Home Before Dark. So
I thought they were supposed to be better.
You know what's crazy about the playoffs though?
Not.
If you look at the East, the East is set. It's just about positioning at this point. But the teams themselves are set. If you look out west,
It's nuts.
San Jose and
All
Portland
over the
play
place.
each other. If San Jose has to, if they tie, then there's a whole FC Dallas goal differential thing. But San Jose,
If they win, they're in.
if they win, they're in.
Yeah,
And
Portland
if
could be
Portland's out, if they don't win and Dallas wins.
It's
So I mean,
fascinating.
there's a lot, and even Colorado,
Effectively, these are playing games.
Somehow
Yeah.
Colorado is
they're still in
yeah.
it barely because their goal differential is -3 and Dallas's is 2. So I mean, Colorado would have to go beat LAFC
Gosh.
6-0.
I truly would love to see Minnesota United go
Well, to
up
win,
against
right?
Colorado and then lose.
Well,
To have the season you had in Minnesota and then to go into the playoffs the first round, lose to Colorado.
Here's the thing: what do LAFC have to play for right now, other than the most points all time in the league?
That's it.
That's it. So if you're Colorado, you might be going into that game being like, "Hey, they might take a step off. If you're Colorado, you're going full balls to the wall here, man. Like, it's going to be fascinating. Selection Sunday is going to be good. Not so much in the East because, again, there's positioning.
I don't know that Bob Bradley's that guy, though. Or LAFC is that team to lay off the gas.
To, lay off. And that's the thing. There's two schools of thought really going in. Like, when you're the dominant team going into the playoffs, it's like, do you want to take a step back in that last game, or will it throw off your momentum?
You're telling me that at home they're not going to want to be all raucous and grab that record?
Well, they've already had the Supporter Shield celebration and everything.
Oh, but this is different. No one cares about the Supporter Shield. This is different.
They care about it.
Yeah, so would we have had it happen, but it didn't.
Well, it's funny because
we care more about this.
The Supporter Shield. It's so funny with all that stuff because Supporter Shield is fine. But what does this league define success as, and who is the champion of MLS? The team that wins MLS Cup. Until they change that, Supporter Shield is really just going to be a great pat yourself on the back. And by the way, I did see too where looking at qualification for CONCACAF Champions League, I didn't realize that the winner of the conference that isn't also the Supporter Shield champ also gets in to CONCACAF Champions League. I didn't, because last year it didn't seem like we were talking about that.
I think it has to do with.
Is that an adjustment for this year?
No, but I think it has to do with who wins what.
Because right now,
if a team qualifies two ways,
right,
then there's a default to something else.
Like I saw that NYCFC right now would get a bid for the CONCACAF Champions League by virtue of winning the East or being the best team in the East.
I think it also has to do with something else having had happened. I believe.
Man, that is such a convoluted mess.
But here's the thing with your Supporter Shield thing, and this is why I think it's kind of, no offense, but just kind of nonsense to think about it this way, because you literally have the same conversations or the same kind of awards in every sport you can think of in American sports.
Of course.
So it's no one cares about the NFC Championship for the most part.
Yeah,
they might celebrate on the field like they care, but everyone's like, all right, well, on to the Super Bowl.
Well, nobody's mentioning, when they're talking about Atlanta United trophies in the past year or whatever, nobody mentions the Eastern Conference MLS trophy.
Except Tito. But
give him another chance to bang on Tito.
Other than Tito. No, I thought that was a good moment for him. Standing up for your team.
He's like, hey, we won the Eastern Conference trophy.
He was trolling the Red Bulls.
Not taking any ish from the Red Bulls.
It was topical because you were playing the Red Bulls and you saying we got the trophy. You know?
No, but you better believe LAFC and their fans and Bob Bradley care about this record in their second year.
You know what I also think they care about? Not them, but the Don Garber and the league themselves. I mean, can you imagine an Atlanta LAFC MLS Cup? The last champion versus
that'd be great.
I want to see it in NYC. I want.
Do you think they want
the MLS Cup in Citi Field?
Here's the question.
I want to see the MLS Cup final in Citi Field.
If you're Don Garber in a perfect world, is your ideal final NYCFC going to LAFC?
I mean, that's how it would work out because LAFC.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. Anybody, if LAFC is going, they're hosting. It doesn't matter. They have the best record. So.
I mean, it depends on what I don't know what he wants. Does he want the two biggest fan bases, if you will? In that case, yeah, it'd be Atlanta. Do you want?
NYCFC's got a pretty good fan base.
Not as big as Atlanta's, but do you want two teams that are actually going to go at it back and forth? Because I think you put LAFC against Atlanta United right now.
Ooh, yeah.
LAFC is going to win 3-4-0. That would be my prediction. But anyway, NYCFC probably puts up more of a fight right now against a team like LAFC. So it depends on what you want.
But Atlanta is a team that has shown they can get hot quickly. That's what happened in MLS Cup playoffs last year. They sputtered into the playoffs, but flipped the switch, and look what happened.
I don't think they sputtered. I mean, Albion was hurt.
Yeah, but
Albion was the engine that went.
No, I get what you're saying, but it's also
what do you expect?
Well, but that's
the same conversation we're having about Barco.
Well, and Joseph too, because with Joseph, it's more we don't know than anything. So there is a lot of unknowns about this team going into the playoffs. But if they get there, and hey, if Joseph is fully, ready to go, Barco gets back into form, then yeah, I think this team can flip a switch pretty quick.
Yeah.
All right. Any final thoughts before we go?
Yes.
Oh, you need to go.
Steve Bruce is an idiot.
Oh, God. Yeah. Please do this. By the way, Steve Bruce says that Miguel Almiron is an inside forward.
Yes.
How many times has he watched Miguel Almiron play? Miguel Almiron isn't a goal scorer. To be an inside forward, that's usually one of the traits, right? You got to be a goal scorer. Almiron can score goals, but that is not his forte. And he's a box-to-box midfielder. Like, he's not an inside forward. Steve Bruce, and I was explaining this to Eric earlier on the radio show, it's like Steve Bruce comes from, like, the super old school English. Like, he doesn't know anything about South American soccer. Like, he's this.
He could go on the internet. But
well, right. I mean, he's a very, student of the game, student of the English game, the Sir Alex Ferguson way. And look,
don't drag Ferguson down with that. Ferguson great football.
No, I'm saying that Steve Bruce played for those Manchester United teams, and he still wants his team to play like 1993 Manchester United. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Right. Like he's very true to that style and has no idea what to do with a player like Miguel Almiron, who has this flair, who has this ability to play multiple positions. And again, Steve Bruce, there was a quote, he hadn't seen Miguel Almiron like ever play until January.
So let's dive deeper because let's first of all talk about his career as a student of the game. So with man played for Gillingham.
Well, student of that game.
Exactly. Manchester United, Birmingham City, Sheffield United.
Every single one of those clubs was British.
Sheffield United, Huddersfield Town, Wigan Athletic, Crystal Palace, Birmingham City, Wigan Athletic, Sunderland, Hull City, Aston Villa, Sheffield Wednesday, Newcastle United.
That guy's more British than a steak and kidney pie.
So
it's a long resume.
So first of all, he's been in a lot of places, and I don't think he's a terrible manager, but like Sam said, his style is pretty antiquated at this point. Anyways, the quote talking about Miguel Almiron said, he's not an out-and-out center forward or a natural number 10 either.
Which is true.
He's an old-fashioned inside forward, so we have to try and get the best out of him. So two things. First of all, I don't know what old-fashioned inside forward is.
I don't know what that is either.
Sam, you described what a current inside forward is, which is someone who cuts in, plays wide, and cuts in, plays more narrow, and shoots.
Right.
So I did some research. And we talked about Jason Longshore earlier, how he's an encyclopedia of knowledge. And he was mentioning this on Soccer Down Here, that the old-fashioned inside forward is teams used to play a 2-3-5 formation and the front five consisted of two wingers, on the outsides of the five.
I'm sorry, wait. Back up again?
Yes. So in the olden days.
Yes. When they were still playing with like that ball that's like a brown leather, like rubber.
I haven't confirmed this, but Jason said it, and so I'm going with it. And if it's wrong, you can blame Jason. But so you had a five-man front line with a striker in the middle, two wingers out wide, and then two kind of inside, the two then more narrow players inside forwards. So
I'm trying to think how that would look.
So it's basically you have a front five with a middle player as striker.
Yeah.
Two wingers. And then
you have two more
narrow players as inside
so
forward.
Is this almost kind of like a Christmas tree?
So an old-fashioned inside forward doesn't exist anymore, first of all. And secondly, Steve Bruce has decided that the best place to play Miguel Almiron this season, and he's played him there 4 or 5 matches, is on the right as a right winger.
Can we encourage him to do the five-man forward line?
Yeah, if he's good at it.
That sounds like it'd be fun to watch.
It's like, look, and Miguel Almiron is Newcastle's best player, which is arguable. But look, he's not their best player because of the way Steve Bruce is playing him. But just in terms of talent level, if he is one of their best players, maybe they do need to go to the 2-3-5 or whatever.
If anyone out there, if you can get access to Steve Bruce's landline phone number, you can give him a call. Because I'm sure he doesn't understand cell phones or social media.
Smoke signals.
Hit him on
because
WhatsApp.
If he had gone on the internet and said, I'm going to try Miguel Almiron on the right wing, he would have noticed that he's played 53 matches at attacking midfield, 25 at left winger, 11 at center mid, 7 at second striker, and he had played, I believe, 4 matches in his entire career at right winger.
And you don't want him to be isolated.
So not only did you say he is a made-up position in a 2-3-5, you're playing him in a spot he's never played in his career. He's touched the ball inside the 18-yard box 14 times this season. He's basically playing him as like a defensive midfielder that drops like a right, I don't know what, an old-fashioned something that comes all the way back.
Which goes against like every instinct in his body.
And the craziest thing about this is Miguel Almiron should be a great player for a Steve Bruce who's like, we want to sit back, we want to play direct.
And hit him on the counter.
Miguel Almiron is one of the best players in transition. I mean, I think that's an area where he transferred right into Premier League and play well. And he's not using him like that. And it's really frustrating to watch a manager like Steve Bruce, where you have a guy who not only are you playing out of position, but there should be a very influential spot in the team for him in terms of having someone that can start the counterattack when you're forced. But instead, he's playing him deeper. He's playing him on the right side where we know that he's not comfortable playing. And it's just a huge mess. And I just really feel for Miguel Almiron, because we talked about this before he went to Newcastle, that we love the idea of him going to Europe, and we love the idea of, having a player to look at in England. But this
bring him home, baby.
Just from in terms of his career, this just might not be the best move from him. And we talked about them getting relegated.
Come back to us, Almiron.
But clearly, come home. Come
back to us.
You come here. We will not play you on the right wing. Although you would still be awesome in MLS.
We still have a place for you here.
There were links going into the season like Real Madrid.
There were a lot of
guys. Do you think we could con Newcastle into like an Almiron pity swap? Player for player.
Oh, God.
No.
No, if my gas leak's running things.
But I mean, you have to wonder.
Steve Bruce.
You feel really bad for Miguel Almiron, just his career. I mean, this is a move where, he is, what is he now? 26, 27 years old?
This is why I had reservations, man. Like, I wanted him to go on from Atlanta. I wanted him to go to Europe and have that success. 25. But when Newcastle was the team that started to really be the one linked with him, as a fan of English soccer for a while, and Josh, you back me up on this, Newcastle not only have not been good for a long time, they have been a mess at the front office level
it's a top to bottom problem.
Years. So when they started being the team that looked like they were going to win the race to get him, I was nervous for him. I was very nervous.
It sucks for him because he'd go there at 24 years of age. If you waste age 24 to 26, 27, that's really where you establish your value as a player, or you're playing for Real Betis or something like that, where maybe you're still top flight, but the upward trajectory you were hoping that would come from Atlanta United and that should have been there with the development and success he had as a player just wasn't, because he went to a club that didn't have an identity, and then now we're seeing they go hire someone who doesn't understand how to use him as their manager. So I really feel for him personally.
In fairness, under Rafa Benitez, he was being used exactly though he was being used with Atlanta
Absolutely.
United. And it was fantastic to see what he was able to do at that level.
And he created a ton of chances.
Absolutely. It's a shame that he still hasn't scored, but I remember watching it and I'm thinking, well, I'm probably going to have to, eat some crow, because I was the one that was saying he by himself is not going to help this team. And he absolutely did help the team.
He did. He did.
To the point now where
But again, it
the
shows
reverse
you,
is effectively happening,
and it shows you, to Sam's point, what a shambolic club this is you broke your transfer record on this dude. Your manager left, and you went and hired Steve Bruce, who doesn't play us. He doesn't know how to use him. So it's like, it really shows you what a mess Newcastle is, that you would break your transfer record on this guy, and then when you lose the manager that wanted him, you would just go get someone that doesn't know how to use him at all. And now you've got all that money playing in a position he's not successful at, playing in a style that maybe he doesn't like, and it's tough for his career. It's really, you wonder where he's going to be a year from now.
That's hard to move. Like, it's not like he can move to a different Premier League club off of what's going on.
This is one of the worst Premier clubs there is right now.
And I think
they've won one match all year.
He's going to have to. Essentially, he's going to have to demote himself if he wants a chance at then playing for a different Premier League club or a different top tier club in Europe.
Well, this is where
he's not going from unless someone recognizes the game
or the mistakes that Newcastle made.
Unless someone absolutely clearly recognizes how Newcastle has effed this all up,
which is possible.
Sure,
but
I think a lot of people should.
You don't want to bet on that.
He's absolutely going to have to play at a lower level, not necessarily back to MLS, but a lower level, probably within Europe, and then essentially fight his way back to a top-tier club.
Because surely,
which is not what he wanted to do.
Surely when he went to Newcastle, he was seeing it as a similar stepping stone as Atlanta United. Or he'd be there 2-3 years and then go to somewhere else bigger.
You know what it was?
Or completely change the club itself. Because, look, for the first couple of months, you thought he was that guy.
And it is a club that has the potential
to be much more than it is. Don't play him, sell him now. he should never step on the field again.
Well,
That's all the tweets you see now.
It's funny too because with
wild.
the Real Madrid links from Newcastle, it made me think about those goal movies. You remember that the guy that like went to Newcastle and then
Yes.
he went to like Real Madrid or ever that or
Yeah,
whatever.
he did really well.
That's what I'm saying. It's like oh, that, in theory that sounds great, but I think one of the things that I think has to be thought of here, if you're and this could be where Miguel Almiron's biggest impact as a player in the English Premier League is for other South American players. These agents that are in South America, the people that's around, they don't have the inner knowledge of, hey, look, this big English club is coming, Newcastle. Yeah, we've heard of them. Let's go to them. The agents and the players that are putting these players in the position have to realize, hey, maybe we should wait for a different opportunity because this club has a track record of running players into the ground and not making the right decision.
And the reason I think you can question the agent is because go ahead.
No, sorry.
I just think it's he makes when you go to the Premier League, you make a lot of money.
Well, I'm saying the money, that's the problem. These people in South America who have never seen this kind of money before, like Miguel Almiron was making good money.
But the agent,
in the English Premier
I think
League,
it's more so the agent gets a bigger cut, right? He gets
so they're pressuring the player to go.
And I think it was interesting that basically entire January window, all you heard was Newcastle. And I'm thinking, surely there are more teams that would be in for this guy.
But that's a bad job of the agent, too, by not spinning other teams.
But, it was just that the EPL team was the only one that was willing to offer the most salary, was willing to offer the most transfer fee. And for an agent,
there were other teams involved. At least there were other teams reported.
There
were.
Like
Tottenham, I think, was chirped around.
No, they were. I think I forget the Italian teams that were.
Right, exactly. But those teams could not offer as much as Newcastle simply because Newcastle was in the EPL. And this is something we talked about, that it's weird when you become a sought-after commodity in Europe, because if English clubs are in for you, it automatically drives your value way up.
It's short-term cash grab.
Those teams can spend so much more. So suddenly teams in Italy are priced out, even though it might have been a better move for his career as a player.
That's what I'm saying. It's a short-term cash grab versus looking at the bigger picture. Maybe he should have gone to an Italian club like the Fiorentina or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. We're just throwing.
Using that for example, because clubs that know how to operate, whereas Newcastle has always thought they're big baller, big budget, and they haven't been for like 20 years.
But time out. The move was a good move at the time.
I don't think so.
He changed the club for about 3 months.
Well,
the club was finally excited.
I mean, from Newcastle's perspective,
sure.
But again,
even from Almiron's perspective, you thought
at first
during the first 3 months or so, you thought this is a game changer.
But again, that's a short-term view of it, and the long-term, if you know Newcastle, you know how this club has run itself, you're like, okay, this is a short burst. When's it going to fall apart? And everybody that watches EPL is like, okay, nobody thinks Newcastle can sustain anything for a while because of how shambolic they've run this club.
So what we're saying is that, or at least what we're assuming is that Rafa Benitez and Almiron didn't have a conversation about him potentially leaving at the end of the year.
But that's Miguel Almiron's agent again.
I doubt it.
No,
I doubt it. I mean, Benitez was kind of wanting to stay the whole summer.
If he didn't have that already in mind, let's say they didn't have that conversation because that wasn't a thing, at least at the time, then this was the correct move.
But here's the thing:
it didn't work out.
But like Sam's saying,
as an agent, you have to know. And you have to know when Rafa Benitez's contract, his contract was up. Like there was no. So if you're an agent, you got to realize, hey, we want to go play for this guy. It'd be great to play for this guy. But at the same time, his contract's up at the end of the year. This club has a history of turmoil. Like I'm putting this a lot on his representation because in the long run, Newcastle was not a good move for a number of good reasons.
There were stories, even
short-term money,
when Almiron came in, that Rafa was going to leave if he couldn't get Almiron.
Right.
And so I think you had to be able to realize that this might be a good guy for Miguel Almiron today, but there's no guarantee that he's going to be here tomorrow. Right. So it was a risk. I mean, and again, it's crazy.
But you could have made the same argument with him with Atlanta United. You could have made that same.
No, because Atlanta United don't have the history of what Newcastle are as a club. I mean,
You're right. Atlanta didn't have any history.
It would be exactly. It would be much more. It would be much more like moving to Orlando.
And he gets to go against like Sasha Kleshchin and guys like that, as opposed.
I mean, and again, you can't really go back because we don't know exactly what happened, and obviously it would have been just totally unfair to have him stay, another transfer window in Atlanta. But I just feel like it felt like that move was.
Oh, please!
pushed.
No one's putting a gun to his head and going, sign the papers now.
Oh, I agree.
This is absolutely 100% Milne's decision.
Of course. But
I
I mean,
think it was
the people around you advising you, I think maybe there's a chance that he was pushed towards Newcastle because the link started in November or whatever, that he was pushed in that direction because they know if we can do this transfer, this is going to net us the most money.
You never know what backroom dealings are going on too, by the way.
By doing that, it outpriced all these other clubs out of the race. And again, we're just speculating, but I think it's we're all huge fans of Miguel Almiron, and it's tough to watch him in the situation he's in right now. And hopefully it doesn't cause him a huge detriment to his career, because whatever you think of Newcastle, playing out of position in a pretty bad side with a manager that, you know, is stuck in the 1980s is not good for a player in his mid-20s in his first experience playing Europe.
I mean, think about this. Who's the last player like to come out of Newcastle, having gone in there and then leaving with a better reputation? Like, think about what they did to Michael Owen.
I'm sure we can think of somebody.
I think it's Gigi Wijnaldum. I think that's it. Wijnaldum, yeah. That's the guy who popped into my head when I thought about this question. But like, you look at like Michael Owen, for example.
Yeah,
how did that
go?
Back to that, you know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? There's a track record of this club just ruining people, man.
Yeah. And they've never been willing to spend a lot of money, and just, I mean, it's a mess. So hopefully things. I don't really care what happens to Newcastle, but I hope things get better for Miguel Almiron, because I want him to have a good career, and I want to see him put in positions to succeed against the best, because I think we all know what a talented player he is and want to see how he does at the highest level. But you can't tell when he's, you know, got a manager saying he's best in a position that existed 50 years ago and playing him inverted where he never has.
Maybe he'll get on to like Villarreal or something. And
something like that would be great. Yeah.
Come back to us. I mean,
yeah, or just come home.
Come back.
Come home.
Come back to your home.
You're like the Rick James, Dave Chappelle gif where it's like,
yeah, that's
come
good.
in.
Come back. That's good.
That's good. All right, let's wrap it up. You can find me at Eric G. Quintana on social media.
You can find me at Josh B914.
At Sam J. Franco, although I'm thinking about changing it to at Steve Bruce is an idiot.
There we go. Yeah, I think that's a fair statement.
MOTS Podcast. What is this? Does anyone have any idea where to get the yellow caution stickers Joseph put on his Instagram? No, I have no idea. You guys have any idea?
Yeah, he's got.
I want to know why you're reading off comments as we sign off on the YouTube.
It was a random one that just popped up, and I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Isn't that the sticker though, where it's like a yellow sticker with like the mean face emoji on it or something?
I don't know.
No idea what you're on about.
I'm sorry, Stephen. I have no idea. You can find us at MOTS Podcast.
We don't do any prep, Stephen. Why would we?
Patreon.com/MOTS Podcast.
We don't do it.
And anything else?
I love you guys.
Ooh, I just saw these stickers. These stickers are
always fun. I'll be in the Gulch Sunday. Y'all hit me up. Come hang out.
Sounds good. All right, until next time. See you later, Lana.
It's like,
good night, everybody.
It's like, caution, Joseph Martinez is coming.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I'll say those are pretty sweet.
It looks like there's deer running across.